Hello there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is Cynthia Clark, and you are listening to Life is in Your Hands, Ask Cynthia. And I am a palm reading consultant and relationship expert, and I am super excited because occasionally I like to bring really awesome people onto the show. And that day is today. so, the show is all about becoming the driver of your life. And I like to talk about topics that are going to help you just live a better life and be able to be happier and healthier in your life. And today's topic, I think, is one that every single person out there can relate to. And it is the topic of overcoming failure. Of course, I've never failed. Just kidding. I've failed. I've failed so many times. I don't even want to talk about that. But I think everybody can resonate with this topic, and we can all learn from it too. And hopefully, that's what we're going to do today. So I have a really super guest that has agreed to join me. His name is Garrett Clark, and he is out of beautiful California. I just love California. The weather there is so nice.
Not only the weather, but also the scenic beauty.
Yes, and the really nice people in California. I just love that. So Garrett is an entrepreneur and a father of two sons, and he is definitely an expert in helping people overcome challenges, from what I understand about you, Garrett. So thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Cynthia, and I definitely appreciate the enthusiasm with your introduction and in having me on your show. So definitely appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. So Garrett, why don't we start out with, since the topic is failure. I'll start, if you want, I'll start with one of my little stories of a time that I totally fell flat on my face. But
You've obviously recovered.
yeah,
That's always the key.
I have definitely recovered. One of my passions is actually helping people in relationships, because I had a marriage that fell apart after 19 years. And that was probably my darkest time period, just going through a divorce and, realizing that, oh my gosh, I've been with this person over 22 years of my life and suddenly it's over. That was a really rough blow for me. But, I came through it. I got married again. Here I am. I'm very happy. And so that was probably my worst one. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your story?
Sure. So, my story probably isn't, too much unlike your own. I've too had to go through a very contentious divorce. Um, so I guess it's just easiest just to start from when things started to go wrong, and the failures started to happen. So this was back in spring of 2012. I was working at a particular company, and we had a bit of a reorg. And I had been at this company for about 4 years. Really enjoyed my job, the people that I worked with, and as a lot of people who have been through this before can attest to, when a reorg happens, a lot of times the management also changes. And sometimes that management can be for the better, sometimes it can be for the worse. And it's, a lot of it has to do with trying to, shake up the culture, just change the way things are going. But in this case, it turned into a situation that wasn't a very good fit for me. In fact, it turned out to be so bad that I had felt the need to report some below the board behavior, so to speak. So I became a bit of a whistleblower, and typically when that happens in a corporate environment, it's not necessarily appreciated, and they look to get you out of there. And that's exactly what happened to me. So
Hmm.
I'm losing my job. At this time also, my marriage is breaking down. We had some some really unfortunate events with my former stepson. He started to struggle with drugs and alcohol. And I can say this because he's been going through the program and he acknowledges it now. But that really took a toll on our family. I had my two boys at the time, but they were very young. So all this is imploding. You know, I start to go through a really tough depression, anxiety creeps up. So I started thinking about what do I want to do with my life, and I felt like I needed to, you know, as embarrassing as this is to say, prove to my ex-wife that I can do some things without her. So I decided I'm going to start a business. I've always liked fitness. I've always been a long-time sport coach, particularly within football. And so there's a particular individual that I had always trained with at a particular gym. We got our heads together and we were both like, you know what, let's do this. Um, Unfortunately, we didn't really ask the right questions about what it means to be an entrepreneur and those responsibilities. Some of the basics like, you know, marketing, what's the competition in the area. So everything that you could do wrong as an entrepreneur, I did wrong. And that includes vetting that business partner who ultimately ended up embezzling funds and
Mm,
intimidating a lot of our clients. So that crashed and burned, and that led me to hitting rock bottom, where I was literally hours away from being homeless.
mm.
Um, yeah.
Wow,
So
that is a story.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
and here's the thing. Um, I'm college educated, and I've gotten more than halfway through two different master programs. Yet here I was on the doorstep of homelessness and thinking to myself and feeling sorry for myself, how could I get here? But asking that question was sort of led to my rebirth, if you will.
yeah, that's often the time when it happens. It's, that's how I view it, as a total redirect of your life. So, you know, I would say that was the same for me too. So yeah, we have to always look at these horrible dark night of the souls,
Yes.
periods as like, hey, guess what? It's the universe is just redirecting you. And it's for your benefit, and it's to get you back on track where you're actually going to be happy and fulfilled.
Yes, and what you just said is absolutely the key because I mean we see how social media, the some of the dark aspects of social media and how that can affect people and their own personal outlook on their lives. This is no easy hurdle to overcome. All right, we've seen, you know, a spike in you know, really deep depressions and even suicides because of this. So if you allow yourself to really slow down, think about how, you know, life is you know, the constant in life is indeed change. Um, that is truth. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you understand that, and if you start to think about, you know, you know, some of the positive aspects that you bring to this world, that's more than half the battle. You just need to accept it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Um, yeah, and so for me, I had to let go of my ego a little bit, because when I was going through these hardships, I really didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't want to be, you know, seen as, you know, a failure or a loser. That is
Mm-hmm.
absolute truth.
Right. But
But
really, being a failure is not being a loser. Those two do not go together.
yes,
We put them together, but it absolutely doesn't need to be that way.
it really doesn't. But sometimes we need that voice or something to happen to show us that they're not the same, right?
Exactly.
So so all this started, you know, like I was saying, in 2012. Fast forward to 2016. So I was battling through this for like 4 years. And then at the darkest moment, swallowed some pride. I actually called my mom That's the one person where I really
Yay.
didn't want to call because, moms worry, parents worry.
Yes, they sure do. My parents don't know half of the stuff that goes on in my life.
Right?
But
That's a topic for another show, right?
yeah, I try not to give my mom too much bad news. I
Yeah.
totally agree. But
Yep.
I almost moved back into my parents' basement after I got divorced, and trust me, that was like, okay, this is total defeat if I have to do
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So same mentality. I had the same mentality, but finally, I broke down. I called my mom and I actually had asked her for some money, and I was crying like a baby too.
I'm sure.
But she understood. She loaned me the money. The money got to me just in time before I was completely evicted. Um, and somehow, some way, I'm really someone who believes in um, following what the universe, that direction that the universe will push you in, especially now. I don't try to fight it anymore. Once I took that step to let go of my pride, accept some help, suddenly things started coming in line. Wasn't evicted, and because because I had some, education, college degrees, whatever, a job out of the blue, just a recruiter finds me, and I'm in position to take advantage of that opportunity, and it just started to climb from there. Even that job that I just spoke of, that opportunity, was a perfect fit for me, for my personality. Um,
Isn't that great?
yes, and since that time, so since 2016, it's been up and away. Not only for the corporate work that I do, but also for the strength and conditioning work I do. Both took off big time after that.
So a good thing for people to ask would maybe be, how is this setback? Let's just call it a setback. How is this setback good for me? And how is it actually helping me? Because
Yep.
if we look at it that way, then we don't have to feel like it's a failure. It's not a failure. It's a setback.
Eh, Yes. So surviving the failure, what all this forced me to do was um, think more clearly about how I wanted to proceed with my life and how I needed to work to to build a successful business and to portray myself as someone who could help any company grow and succeed. So, case in point, as I was saying before, when I first entered the endeavor of trying to, run my own fitness studio, I didn't ask the important questions. Put together a haphazard business plan, didn't do the due diligence, didn't have the amount of the correct type of hustle that you need to build your base. Now, when I say the correct type, I've never worked harder. During that time, I never worked harder to earn so little, but it was inefficient. Um, uh, Letting my ego go, reaching out to people, reaching out to mentors, people who have been there before, listening to their experiences, but understanding what my own strengths and weaknesses are. You have to be honest with yourself. Once you do that, I think, for me anyway, life has become a heck of a lot easier. Understanding my own strengths and weaknesses and trying to stay where my strengths are while at the same time shoring up some of my weaknesses.
That sounds like a great way to go through life.
Yep.
So, so
Yeah. And
do you help other people with stuff like this, or what do you do?
yeah, so not not only, it's great that you ask, because not only do I help other people being athletes, but even a part of my corporate role now. So by day, I'm a sourcing professional who purchases services related to marketing endeavors. So advertising agencies, marketing technology, software, events, things of that nature. Um, and people who are experienced in marketing or sourcing know that those two types of businesses traditionally don't get along because they have opposing objectives. So I'm often now called the marriage counselor of procurement and marketing professionals. So it's my job to make sure I can bridge a lot of those gaps, get everyone collaborating, and that again, it takes a lot of building trust and partnerships. And at the same time, with my athletes, I make sure that they know that I care about them. This isn't just a money-making endeavor for me because I am thrilled by their success, and I try to treat all my athletes as an equal to me instead of, a lot of coaches, especially in the more physical sports like a football or rugby, um, lacrosse, uh, they fall prey to using intimidation tactics to motivate their athletes. Well, I found my niche. I use a more cerebral approach. I allow the athletes to question me. I allow them to challenge my knowledge. How can I do this? Well, I'll tell you, I can do this because I feel confident in my own skill sets. So there's this balance, or yeah, there's a balance in a lot of things that we do. One of that is managing your ego. Um, you have to know the difference between confidence and being overly, egocentric, that sort of thing.
For
Um,
sure.
yes,
Yeah. Time to take some humble pie, as my ex-husband used to call it.
absolutely.
But it's good. I mean, that makes perfect sense. So, so that's terrific. So people, we all have these challenges that we come across, and we all struggle. And it's just it's nice to know that we're not alone. It's like everybody goes through different forms of these so-called failures, but it doesn't have to be the end of the world. It doesn't have to be the end of your life or the end of whatever. It's just a change, a transition, and it ultimately makes you stronger,
Yes.
gives you more perspective, gives you clarity in what you actually want, because sometimes we have to be shown what we don't want in order to know what we do want. I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Again, this comes down to being truthful with ourselves about, again, what our strengths and weaknesses are. What are our true passions, and how do we go after that, versus what are we doing that's maybe not what we really want, but everyone is telling us that's what we need to do, or that's just the way society is, things of that nature. So I think if as human beings, if we can sort of dissect what it is about, say, our society here in the U.S., where how we evaluate what's a success, what's a failure, the language that we use around that. I think there needs to be a continuing discussion around that on a really expansive level, especially as we see social media do
Yeah,
some things to our society that's debatable, whether or not it's positive. Again, I have two boys, one's 13, one's soon to be 12. So they're entering that adolescent stage where, I mean, social media is very much important in their lives, and some of the stuff that I see floating around is like, whoa. I'm glad I'm not their age anymore going through this.
right. And it all starts with us,
Yep,
so looking at the individual, when I'm on social media, I always keep things positive, and that's just what I do.
yep,
So that's what I recommend for other people as well, because it's like, well, how would you feel it if somebody bashed you? You know what I mean? Like,
that's
it's
right.
people have this disconnect, I think, and they need to pull it back.
Exactly, and that's why the universe has brought me to you, Cynthia. We're the same mind there, so we all kind of
That's right.
connect that way, right? We're attracted that
Absolutely.
way. I
Yeah,
believe that.
absolutely. So, so tell me, how can people find you if they want to
Um,
work with you?
yeah, the easiest way is just contact me via email. Actually, there's two different ways. You can find me through coachup.com. Again, that's one word, coachup.com. Or you can email me directly at Garrett, that's Garrett, Clark, CLARK 70 @gmail.com.
Okay, well, that sounds terrific. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me.
It was a lot of fun. I hope you had fun.
I had a great time. Hope we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks everybody for tuning in. If you have a topic that you would like us to discuss on the show, please let me know. And also please subscribe to the show and let other people know about it. So I appreciate all of you for tuning in, and have a wonderful day, and make sure that you take charge of your life, and don't worry about those failures. You know, it's just another step in the pond.
That's right.
So thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you.